Jimmy. From coast to coast and shore to shore. Jimmy's on the mic and on your screen. Can I get an amen? Unleashed, unfiltered, unashamed, unafraid. Hey, God bless America and praise Jesus today. Start your day with Jimmy Lakey. Let the whole world see. House of Lakey Studios. The show starts now on 3. 1, 2, 3. There's infotainment and brilliance to get you on your way. From the Lakey Entertainment Tower, he's live with you each day. Unleashed, unfiltered, unashamed, unafraid. God bless America and praise Jesus today.
All right, God bless America and praise Jesus today. Thank you to the Brother Leroy and the Jimmy Lakey Mass Choir. Ladies and gentlemen, if I don't come on the show one day and it's an empty screen, it's because I'm hiding when Brother Leroy sends me the new invoice for all the new hooks and jingles that he has produced for us. So that just means I can't be found. So Delilah, Brother Leroy knocks on the door. Make sure you tell him I'm unavailable to see him with that invoice. High atop the Lakey Entertainment Towers from the House of Lakey Studios, I am Jimmy Lakey, unleashed from the confines of corporate radio, and here we are together. Isn't that exciting? We're all here together. Ever see Nicki Minaj? We were commenting yesterday, producer Chad and I, and a couple of others watching the looking at the news, and Nicki Minaj, what hip-hop or pop artist, I don't know what you call the genre, not even familiar with her music. I know who she is. I mean, I could pick her out of a lineup, but I don't know much about her. She showed up and at an event with Donald Trump, and she said she is Donald Trump's #1 fan. That had to make the Hollywood elite crowd go absolutely nuts, that she would jump off the reservation and not be leaving the country, but instead embracing the president of the United States, Nicki Minaj. I'm not going to comment. I'm not here to comment about a woman's body, but I think that I don't understand how it happens. Everybody go watch the video. I should have grabbed a screenshot of it, but I felt dirty doing so. But I think the caboose was enhanced. That's I don't think you can get a caboose like that unless you enhance it. Anybody see that yesterday? It was a different zip code. It was really plump. Just throwing that out there to start the show. If you saw the Nicki Minaj video or the photo, I'm just telling you, Nicki Minaj had I don't know how you do that. Ladies, maybe you can help me. Maybe you may have some enlightenment. Maybe there's some kind of a cosmetic treatment, but she evidently, it was a different, not just zip code. I think as producer Chad said, that's a different time zone. She's like on Greenwich Mean Times with that caboose. It was a lovely comments by her, but I was very distracted. I'm like, she's up here, but I kept looking at the caboose. Not for any kind of a dirty old man reason. It's just, how'd you do that? Anyway, choo, caboose is coming. All right, glad to have that is not on my show notes, Delilah. It's not there at all. I just saw it on the television screen over here, and the story about Nicki Minaj saying she's Trump's #1 fan, and doggone it, well, good for her. All right, Tom Homan's up in Minneapolis trying to sort some things out, to talk about sanctuary cities. We'll talk about that with on the program this morning. Yesterday, Trump was like Oprah. Never thought I'd say that. He's like, you get 1,000, you get 1,000, you get 1,000. Everybody got $1,000 yesterday if you're a newborn. I felt kind of bad that I don't want a newborn right now, but golly gee, my son was a little bit early, I guess, to not get access to the Trump accounts and the $1,000 accounts. We'll talk about that as well. I think that's a fantastic idea. That instead of saying, hey, you just live your life and we'll take care of you when you're old, hey, why don't you just be born and we'll set you up with an investment account early? And the left tries to go apoplectic and say, this is horrible, this is awful. And then all of a sudden, you have J.P. Morgan and other big banks and businesses. So, you know what, we'll match it. If you get a Trump account for your kid, we'll match it. And so it's a great potential. And I think it's focusing on the right thing, teaching people and teaching kids and families the ability of compounded interest, and just teaching people how to invest rather than live your life with no investment and think about a 401k when you get your first job. Why don't you start with an investment account early on? And the governments, of all the things the government spends money on, not a big fan of government spending. I think we got to dial some things back. But of all the money that we put out there as people, I'd rather the $1,000 goes in the bank account accounts of newborns rather than the pockets of Somali pirates. So there is that. We'll talk more about that. The Department of Justice is talking more about that raid on the Minnesota church by Don Lemon and his Antifa terrorist friends. They're having a little comment on that. We'll talk about that as well. Also, a couple of weeks ago, we didn't cover it much, but there was a person that was threatening Representative Mace out of Florida. Well, that transgender Antifa, not sure what it is about the violence that's happening with some of these shootings and the transes, that's plural, right? But that person's now been charged with attempted murder out in Oregon. We'll talk about that. And we get to that. Obama made some really interesting comments about Mr. Pretty that was killed on the streets of Minnesota. We'll talk about that. What was Representative Ilhan Omar sprayed with? There's I'm trying to verify, but there's a meme floating around that says that Ilhan Omar actually had posed with a photo with a guy who's allegedly sprayed something on her. There's stories out what she was sprayed with. It is interesting that she gets sprayed with a chemical, and you have to admire. She goes after the guy with fists. She's ready to go, and good for her. I'd stand up for myself as well. This guy should be charged with the full maximum charge that he could ever get. But it's just interesting that you get sprayed with a substance in this day and age. And she refused medical treatment. She refused to go to the doctor. She didn't get checked out. And after the event, she was hugging all the people at the event, hugging them, going, well, what if you just got sprayed with something nasty? And we'll talk about what that substance was. There is a story out there on that now. Bruce Willis, famous actor. You know Bruce Willis. He's facing dementia. There's been a lot of coverage on that and videos on that, so we can talk about Bruce Willis. And his wife has made a comment that Bruce doesn't know he has dementia. There's another aggregating or complementary or conflicting disease that happens to where you don't know what you have. So we'll talk about that. And I'm going through that with my own mother in this. So it's an interesting story to read. Any of you have been through the battle of dementia or with a loved one, you will find this interesting. We'll get to all of that here in just a moment. I do, though, before we get into the deep news, because, we only do deep news here, I've got a question of the day for you. I have a story here in which Absolute Vodka, anybody know the Absolute Vodka company? There's lots of flavored vodkas out there, right? Well, there's a new one, an absolute new flavor from Absolute Vodka, and it is Tabasco flavored vodka. Last week we did the story on your favorite hot sauce, whether it's in a bottle or a jar, and they claim it's spicy but not too spicy. Absolute Vodka just teamed up on a new product called Absolute Tabasco, using the brand name. It's spicy vodka. They didn't just dump Tabasco in there. It's made with Tabasco pepper mash, the stuff they start with when they start making the hot sauce. So it's not like they just shook the bottle in there. No, they didn't. They start with the actual mash. They describe it as medium heat, so not too hot. But for the first ad for it, for people drinking it, are next to an active volcano. So, hey, it's not too hot, but the people in the advertisement are next to an active volcano. So you're like, well, what are you telling me here? They describe it in the ad as smooth vodka, accented with a heat that builds, leaving a warm, lingering tingling on the lips and every sip. It's 76 proof, which means it's 38% alcohol. That's less than normal vodka, which is about 40% alcohol. So it's a little bit milder in the alcohol content and the proof level. It's available nationwide starting now. It's Absolute Vodka's Tabasco branded bottle, and they claim it works well with different mixers, but makes really good Bloody Marys. So there is this Absolute Vodka that's coming out that's Tabasco flavored. And I read it and I saw the headline. I said, sounds like absolute heartburn. That sounds like something, I'm going to admit to you, I like to sit in at the Lakey estate. I like to sit in my cigar room and have a cigar. And occasionally, just occasionally, I will swirl around a fine beverage in my hand and watch the news or watch the television that night as I relax and chill for the evening. Sipping on I'm guessing an Absolute Vodka with Tabasco flavor is not a sipping spirit. You don't want to sip that. But I'm thinking it's absolute heartburn in the making. And it led producer Chad and I to come up with the question of the day. What is your guaranteed heartburn food? You know you're going to get the heartburn if you eat or drink this, if you do it. That's what I want to hear from you today. It's not political at all. It's all just about what is your guaranteed heartburn, because Absolute Tabasco sounds like it would be very, very heartburnish. So that would be It'd be interesting. Jim says no, just no. I'm not going to have the absolute Tabasco flavored. You know, if you're going to make a Bloody Mary, you probably should have some Tabasco on hand, and maybe you're saving on the Tabasco bottle by buying the vodka. I'm sorry, I'll just shake the bottle in the Bloody Mary, and a little splash of Tabasco never hurt anybody. Scott says on the Rumble feed, he says it's the perfect side for Taco Bell. Yeah, Taco Bell and vodka, not two combos that I really go into. Jim says ghost peppers. Ghost peppers. That's going to give you the heartburn. What's the guaranteed heartburn food? Ghost peppers. Rob says dark beer and spicy pizza. My guaranteed ticket to heartburn is eating too late. That's it. It doesn't matter what it is. You just don't eat too late. Ray jumps in on YouTube. Sounds like a hot moment on the toilet. Sorry for the toilet humor, but I never thought of that. But what goes up must come down. What goes in must go out, right? And yeah. Now, Scott says don't knock it till you try it. So you're all willing to try it. We're a very reasonable audience. We're open-minded. But, yeah, absolute flavored vodka does sound like not a good thing. Rich says, I actually make a ghost pepper adult beverage at 120 proof. Kevin says his heartburn guarantee is anything greasy. Again, my heartburn guarantee is not what I eat, it's when I eat. If I want to, make sure that I'm not sleeping well and having to kind of wait out the heartburn in the evening, eat too late. I try not to eat too late. My son was home for Christmas, and when he comes home for the holidays and he hangs out, well, he'll snack and eat late, and he'll say, well, let's have dinner later. I'm like, no, we're not having dinner at 8, 9 o'clock at night. That's not it. They do that in college because you do that, but I'm not going to do that because it would be heartburn guaranteed. So there's your question of the day. Whatever platform you're on, let us know. What is your heartburn guaranteed? Your guaranteed heartburn food, your guaranteed heartburn beverage. Producer Chad said his is margaritas. In our pre-show meeting, I asked him, I said, well, is it the cheap tequila in a margarita, or is it the syrupy sweetness of the margarita mix? I mean, if you just have tequila and lime in a real authentic premium tequila, would it do the same thing? But producer Chad says margaritas are his heartburn guarantee. That's his kryptonite. He's gonna get the heartburn if he has that. So everybody confess up. I'll confess up. And wouldn't it be great to be like my son, 20 years old, 21 years old again, and you can eat at all times of night and you don't get the heartburn? But now I know better. I can't do that. Rich says Chipotle seasoning. I like super hots, but Chipotle gets to me. The Chipotle seasoning gets to him. Dave says it's the hot wings. The hot wings get him. Is it all hot wings, or is it hot wings with buffalo sauce? Because when I order the hot wings, where I live, there's 2 wing restaurants. There's a wing, what's it called? A Wing Stop, Delilah, and what's the other one? Wing Shack. We got both of them right not far away. They're competing, and I have a preference, but on both of them, I ever get wings because I like wings because they're not breaded, they're low carb and good protein. But you got to watch the sauce you put on them. I like the garlic parmesan, and if I just did garlic parmesan on my wings, I would not have the problem of the heartburn problem, unless I ate it late at night. You don't eat late at night. You just got to learn my cutoff time for ingesting food is at a certain time, which plays well if you're going to do intermittent fasting, I've learned. All right, Bob says on the Facebook, my guaranteed heartburn comes from dealing with an ex-wife or the IRS. It's not a food, but I get it. I understand that. Kenneth on YouTube says peanuts before bed. Well, don't eat peanuts before bed. That's don't eat peanuts. Blue cheese is going to get David, and anything with cinnamon, Jeff says, anything with cinnamon. So anyway, comment, let us know what your absolute guaranteed ticket to heartburn heaven is going to be. We'd love to hear from you. Would you try the absolute Tabasco flavored vodka? All right, let's get back to the news here. We've chatted long enough on this little stuff here. We have to get to news because some of you will start to complain if we don't do a deep dive or at least a surface coverage of some of the news stories. Tom Homan is in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and he says sanctuary cities are sanctuaries for criminals who endanger communities. President Donald Trump's border czar, Tom Czar, said Thursday morning in a press conference, that's this morning, after he arrived in Minneapolis. He said he was deployed to Minneapolis, Minnesota, earlier this week to help restore law and order and remove dangerous criminal illegal aliens from the local community. He made it clear his focus is public safety, not politics, not headlines. He said, I didn't come here to Minnesota for photo ops or headlines. I came here to seek solutions. Homan said more than 10 million illegal aliens entered the country under Joe Biden, including millions of gotaways who evaded authorities. Many, he warned, posed national security and public safety threats. Trump promised voters he would reverse those failures of Joe Biden and prioritize the safety of American communities. And so the border czar, in context, had a press conference today, but he said he has spent the past several days meeting with Tim Walz, the Minnesota governor, and Attorney General Keith Ellison, the Attorney General for Minnesota, and also Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, all Democrats, as well as law enforcement leaders and others. He said in the press conference this morning, he said, we didn't agree on anything. I didn't expect to agree on everything. We didn't agree on everything. I didn't expect to agree on everything, but you can't fix problems if you don't have discussions. One key area of agreement, Tom Homan said this morning, was that ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, is a legitimate law enforcement agency with a duty to enforce federal law. So Homan says he got that tampon Timmy and Keith Ellison and Jacob Frey to say, yes, ICE is a legitimate law enforcement agency. Now, that goes against the backcrap crazy stuff they've been saying. That goes against the base of their party that ICE is illegitimate. ICE is actually has a duty by federal law to enforce the federal law. And you don't have to like ICE. You don't have to like their tactics. You know, we talked about the tactics yesterday. We talked about ICE under Barry Hussein Obama, who deported 1 million people, and nary one of you basement warriors or Antifa types ever went out and protested Barry escorting out of the country 3 million people. We talked about Barry found a way to chase the illegals out of the Chipotle restaurants in Minnesota by launching the IRS on them and doing an audit of the I-9s, and people had to get fired and quit because they were employed illegally in Minnesota because they were illegal aliens. And when they quit their job, guess what happened? Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Something happened. You know what happened? They were deported. ICE met them at the back door of the Chipotle and escorted their smarmy illegal asses out of the country. Tom Homan said this morning that the administration was working on a drawdown plan to decrease the presence of ICE. He says, as we drill down on these great agreements with Minnesota officials, we've got this great understanding. We have means less so we can draw down those resources. They've accomplished, they've got thousands of people have been arrested there and going to be deported, and adios amigos. So Tom Homan is trying to tamp it down for Tampon Tim and get things settled down. That's one of your top stories. Give me your thoughts on that. Also, my friends, we have a story that we can discuss, is that Donald Trump's giving away $1,000. Now, I wonder if some of you liberals out there that have Trump derangement syndrome, if you by chance and decided to have relations and become, let's say, with child, and I know some of you are probably the lesbians, so you're not going to do that. But if you became impregnated in your relationship, let's say you're happily married, and I've seen some of you liberals out there, ain't nobody ever going to be happily married to you. But nevertheless, let's pretend that you're going to have a newborn baby. Are you going to defer and not take the $1,000? You hate everything that Donald John Trump does. You have the orange man derangement syndrome. You can't stand him. And so I'm asking you liberals out there that are watching, will you forego your $1,000? Trump is going to give every newborn child an account that they can access, unlock when they're 18. They can put money in it, but until they're 18, it's locked down. It's a $1,000 government contribution for newborns to help families start to build long-term savings. The president made the announcement at an event hosted by the Treasury Department, which highlighted the program's goal of giving every child a financial head start towards the American dream. He said, I'm delighted to be back in the auditorium to celebrate this thrilling new milestone. This is where Nicki Minaj was with him. She was there. She's donating hundreds of thousands of dollars to this. The Michael Dell family, Michael Dell Foundation from Dell Computers, they're donating multiple millions of dollars. All sorts of millionaires are stepping up, say, we'll also help fund this for the government. For the first time ever, we're going to give every newborn child a financial stake in the future. And he says a head start to a life and a fair shot at the American dream. The money in the accounts will be invested into select stocks and ETFs and will enjoy tax-free growth until withdrawn at the earliest at the age of 18. All U.S. citizens born between 2025, which is last year, and 2028 will be eligible with no income limits. The baby must have a social security number. Parents can contribute into that same account up to $5,000 annually, and employers can put into that account $2,500. The money can be withdrawn at age 18 for education or other qualifying uses. After the recipient turns 18, the account functions like a traditional IRA. So I'm just asking the question. I think it's a great idea. A lot of the big banks and big businesses say, we'll do this for employees. We'll match this. This is like a 401k. We'll do it for the babies. We'll do it. They're getting in this thing. The Trump Accounts program is primarily funded by federal seed contribution. But the initial expansion is that private philanthropy led by Michael and Susan Dell is also committed to $6.25 billion to the fund so that every newborn child born between 2025 and 2028 gets the $1,000. So I'd like to hear some of you leftists out there that hate everything that Donald John Trump is doing. If you pop off a baby and you happen to let your baby live and not abort the thing at the clinic, sadly, you would do that. But if you decide to let a baby be born onto the planet, will you ever accept that $1,000? Or because Donald Trump had the idea, will you hate it? We've always said that if Donald Trump came out with a cure for cancer, a lot of you would hate the cure for cancer, and you would say you hope you got the C word, you wanted it because Donald Trump's against it. So all of you leftists out there, I've got to ask you, you hate Donald Trump. Will you forego? It's a few steps for most liberals to get there, because first of all, you're going to end up aborting the baby, and the baby's not going to get the $1,000. If you choose life and let the baby become a born baby and live presently with us in society, I have to say, are you going to take the $1,000? I can see them because they're called Trump accounts, and that's what they're going to always be referred to as a Trump account. And I can just see some of you liberals out there that your hair explodes and you light your hair on fire every time you hear the story of the man Donald John Trump. You can't handle it, you can't accept it, and so I'm just curious: are you going to take the Trump dollars in the Trump account? That's your another question. Trump's going to give every newborn baby $1,000 if you're born. So anyway, yeah, I'm too old to be making babies at this point in my life. I'm an empty nester, and I don't need a newborn. But $1,000, Delilah. I'm just saying, $1,000 is $1,000. All right. Good to have you here. A lot of you still chiming in on the question of the day. What is your guaranteed ticket to heartburn? What is it that gonna give you heartburn? It started with a story that Absolute Vodka is coming out with a drink, vodka that's not just infused with Tabasco. It's actually made with the actual mash that Tabasco is, the pepper sauce is made from. What is your absolute ticket for getting the heartburn? Linda says cayenne pepper. Stacy there on the screen on the question of the day. Sometimes a bowl of chili will trigger the heartburn. So just curious, what is your absolute ticket? I don't have an absolute ticket. It's the time. If I got to give myself a couple of hours before bed, especially if I'm having a spicy meal. So if I'm going to have a Mexican dinner, let's say on a Thursday night, then I want to have that at about 6 o'clock, so that when I head to bed about 9, 10, 11, then I don't have a set bedtime. Is that bad? I think I should probably have a set bed. I just go to bed when I'm ready to go to bed. I'm a bachelor. I do what I want. It's the time of day for me. That's what gets me. It's very much the time of day. So there's your question of the day. Jeff on YouTube says privately funded anything twist up the liberals' panties as well. Yeah, that's true as well, Jeff, because not only are these liberals, if they decide to let their babies be born and not dropped off in a dumpster at an abortion clinic, the baby's going to be born, then they're going to be facing $1,000, and it's government assistance. I just won't call it Trump money. And then you find out it comes from billionaires. The billionaires, Bernie Sanders, you can't take it, right? You're taking the money from billionaires. So some of you are going to have a tough time with these Trump accounts. You're just going to have a really, really difficult time for that. Just sorry. I'm just wondering, you're going to bypass it on principle? It's a Trump account. Trump had an idea of giving your newborn baby $1,000, and some of you are just not going to be able to take it anymore because Donald Trump decided to do it, and it's privately funded. All right, let's go back to the story about Don Lemon. Don Lemon has a great. He's so far he's skated justice. We talked about this yesterday. All the other people that invaded the church, they're getting arrested. They're being charged with the FACE Act and the KKK Act. They're being charged by the Department of Justice on a daily basis. More people are being charged. However, Don Lemon, because he's a rich, powerful guy and says, I'm a victim. No, he pretended to be a reporter that day, but he was also bringing coffee, donuts, and hot chocolate to the people that interrupted that Minnesota church service and terrorized the parishioners. Well, the Department of Justice said in a recently unsealed criminal complaint against 3 defendants that on Sunday, January the 18th, a group of approximately 30 to 40 agitators who were working together in a coordinated manner descended on the city's church in St. Paul, disrupted religious services, intimidated, harassed, oppressed, terrorized the parishioners, including young children, and caused the service to be cut short and forced parishioners to flee the church out of a side door, which resulted in 1 female victim falling and suffering an injury. 3 activists who have participated in the disruption, former NAACP Minneapolis chapter president Nakima Valdez Levi Armstrong, that's a lot of names, local Black Lives Matter Twin City chapter leader Chantel Louisa Allen, and left-wing provocateur who goes by the name of the Woke Farmer, William Scott Kelly. They have already been arrested. They were charged with violating U.S. Code 18, Code 241, while the Department of Justice saying it's conspiracy against rights secured by federal law. The criminal complaint brought under seal by Assistant Attorney Kristen Weir on the 20th, and there are still charges being filed. And the Department of Justice is letting people know they're still looking into this, and they've arrested at least 3. There's more people being arrested now. I think almost every day they're hunting them down and bringing charges against him. And Don Lemon is going to skate, pretending that he was hiding behind a microphone. He was not an active part of it, even though he was not acting as an independent journalist. He was embedded into the front line of a battle that was actually they picked a fight and they went in there. So keep an eye on this. This is going to be one of those cases that I think it needs to be a reminder to everybody about how these crazy people that would probably forego their $1,000 they also would also interrupt a church service. It's interesting and it's fun to absolutely positively expose how crazy these people are and how deranged they are. That's what's funny. Some of you are just really deranged people. Yeah. Don Lemon, is he ever going to go to jail, face justice? It's going to be interesting if he does, because they found that the judge, we talked about this yesterday, the judge in that case is a Bush appointee, W. Bush, but he's also on a volunteer and a donor to some pro-immigrant illegal law firms. So he had a conflict of interest and did not have the dignity or the character to recuse himself of the conflict of interest. But I hear that the Department of Justice is looking for another way to possibly charge him. All right, speaking of the crazed left, we talked about these recent school shootings, and for years it was we should look at the pharmaceuticals that these kids are on doing school shootings, the mind-altering drugs to treat the hyperactivity or the lack of focus or the ADD. We should look at that. Everybody's looked at the video game angle. Did the video games make the kids violent? But in the recent months and recent years, with this transgender phenomenon circling, there have been a lot of, from Nashville on to several other places, a lot of transgenders who have seemingly gone violent. And I think it should be investigated. Are the hormonal changes, are the floods of testosterone into a young lady's body, are they doing something to alter the mind? I think it's at least fair to say we haven't researched a lot of this stuff. A lot of this stuff has not been tested before it was approved. We just approve it and say, yeah, do that. Well, last May, it was a trans activist and an Antifa member, also known as a Democrat, made a death threat against Republican Representative Nancy Mace of South Carolina. That guy is now behind bars in Oregon. He's been charged with the attempted murder of another man. It goes to show a lot of these people are completely off balance and will repeatedly cause trouble until they are stopped. If you look at some of these people, these protesters, and sadly to say, even Mr. Pretty, he had a long record with the ICE for disrupting things. There's video that the United Kingdom has said they've facial recognition has given a 97% match. That is Mr. Pretty kicking out the taillights of ICE and government vehicles a couple of weeks ago. We now know that he had some broken ribs from a tussle with ICE. These people will repeatedly cause trouble until they're stopped. Is it because of the derangement syndrome, or some of these people doing crazy stuff because the chemicals are on, transgendering their body? I don't know. But this story ties back to the transgender, a biological male transgender member of the domestic terrorist group Antifa, was not prosecuted when he posted an implicit death threat against South Carolina Republican Nancy Mace last May, but he's now in prison in Oregon facing charges of attempted murder. Now, here's what's interesting. He's a biological male, but he claims to be transgender, so where does Oregon have him? They have this biological male in the women's prison because of attempted murder. So this is a Representative Mace said in a statement last night. The blood is on the hands of every prosecutor who looked at this threat and looked away. I pray for the safety of the women he's housed with. A transgender named Rem Heathen, whose real name is Michael Richard Faddick, is an Antifa violent extremist. And Nancy Mace says, I told you, the guy's dangerous. You guys refused to prosecute him for the death threats against me. And because they did not prosecute him for his violent threats, someone out in Oregon is absolutely dead. Absolutely positively dead. And Nancy Mace says, all you prosecutors out there that were soft on crime, you have blood on your hands. Give me your thoughts on that as well. Speaking of Mr. Pretty, the gentleman, and again, the tragic death that happened there. See if I have the story. I know I have it somewhere. Anyway, Obama has made some comments. I want to come back to that. I got to find the story here on my screen. It's not there. Obama's made some very interesting comments on Pretty that I think you have to pay attention to and read between the lines and recognize that Obama suffers not just from narcissism, but he suffers from kind of a delusion of his own making. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. All right, remember the horrible video in which Ilhan Omar was sprayed with something? Some guy jumped up with a syringe at her press conference town hall the other day and squirted her with something. The Gateway pundit is saying they know what the chemical was. A lot of people speculating, how is it that you get sprayed with something by a crazy lunatic that should be charged and hauled off to jail and locked up for a really long time? The man was identified as 55-year-old Anthony Kazmarashak, I think is how you say it. And he jumped up and he rushed to the podium and sprayed Ilhan Omar with the liquid. And she didn't seem to be fazed by it. She went after him with fisticuffs, which I respect, and they hauled the guy off to jail. He is being charged, which I hope he's charged with a very large account or whatever they can charge him with. Let's give him the max, throw it at him. It's not the way we handle town halls and interrupting even your opponent. You don't do that. Well, the mysterious liquid, according to the Gateway pundit, everybody said it smelled so bad. It smelled awful. It must be poison. The mysterious liquid turned out to be apple cider vinegar. Remember all the stories about the smell of this stuff and how awful, and it was apple cider vinegar. Some people are speculating now that the so-called attack on Ilhan Omar was staged. I have no proof of that, but the Kazmarashak was he was tackled, he was apprehended, and one town hall person screamed, "Oh my God, he sprayed something on her." Ilhan Omar insisted that her security that she continued, "We're not going to let this effing a-hole get away with it," she said. And she went right to speak. The foul mystery brownish liquid Representative Ilhan Omar was sprayed with, according to news source in the New York Post, appears to have been apple cider vinegar. Omar was hit with the kitchen staple when the 55-year-olds allegedly stormed the podium as the lefty congressman was firing off anti-ICE spiel, according to Alpha News and the New York Post. So if you were wondering, according to the New York Post, a hazmat team has also confirmed that the syringe allegedly used in the attack was filled with a vinegary substance. It smelled like vinegar or ammonia. Those are two different smells to me, a vinegar and ammonia. But that's what she was sprayed with. So there was no chemical warfare there. But I still hope the guy is charged with a charged with some very, very significant crimes. That's not how we have political discourse. I know the left likes political discourse. Yeah, political discourse on a college campus. The lefties are so crazy, they'll shoot you. They'll kill you like Charlie Kirk. But we don't do that. And so this guy should be charged with the fullest extent of the law. All right. A lot of you know, and we've all been through situations. You've had family members that get sick, family members that suffer, especially elderly parents, elderly grandparents. You've been through there. This is an interesting story. I found that it's about Bruce Willis. It has nothing to do with politics. So some of you keyboard warriors can settle down here because whether you're red or blue, none of us get off this planet alive, and all of us will one day face the eternal creator, and we will give an account for our life, and it goes from there. None of us get off this planet alive. Bruce Willis, famed actor, if you didn't know, he has dementia. And the full story here is that Bruce Willis doesn't know he has dementia, according to his wife, Emma Hemming Willis. Bruce's family shared in 2023 that Bruce has frontotemporal dementia, FTD for short. His wife is in an interview says that Bruce never connected the dots that he has the disease because of a condition called anagnosia, in which the brain can't identify what's happening to it. It's common in patients with FTD and other types of dementia. His wife adds, where people think this might be denial, where they don't want to go to the doctor because they're like, I'm fine. Actually, that's anosognosia that comes into play. That's the blessing and the curse of this thing happening with Bruce Willis that he never tapped in. I'm really happy he doesn't know about it. He's still very much present in his body. Emma says Bruce still knows who he is, but the way he connects with her and the kids is different than someone who would typically connect with their loved ones. It's still very beautiful and meaningful. You just learn how to adapt. Anybody who's ever had a family member that has the dementia, and I'm going through that right now with my mother, it's kind of pleasant that they don't really know what's going on, and you're thinking they're in denial. No, there's another part of the brain that's kicking in, and it's anosognosia that comes into play, and your brain doesn't recognize what's happening to it. And it is comforting, if you've ever been through that they really don't know. I heard it described as sometimes dementia patients, the goal is they're confused. Obviously, they know something's up, but they don't know. The brain can't figure it out. I liken it to the file cabinet in your office, where there's a lot of files or a few files. All of a sudden, it's all tossed up in the air. All the files are everywhere, and you're trying to resort. Where does that thought go? Where does this memory go? You don't know, and you're confused. And the goal, I think, at least we've expressed with my mother, we've talked with other people who have family with dementia, that it is they're going to be confused. You just want to make sure that confusion is as pleasant as possible. So anyway, it's an interesting story about Bruce Willis and his family loving him through dementia. I don't know if you've seen some of the photos of him dancing with his daughter and dancing with his wife. He's there. He's with the family, but it is a very sad situation when someone has the dementia. So anyway, there's a case for that. I just throw that out there. There is a real definition as to why someone might not remember or know and connect the dots, and why they're confused. They don't know they have dementia. No, they don't know they have dementia. And it's a great story there by Bruce Willis's wife, talking about that and how he connects differently. All right, good to have you here on the show. Jimmy is my name. Lakey is my name. Jimmy Lakey. Jaime Lagos, that's what ICE identifies me with. But I've got papers, so they don't mess with me. I tell them I'm Jaime Lagos or Jimmy. Anyway, we'll talk more about ICE. Tom Homan's up in Minnesota. I do have that question of the day, and a lot of you are still commenting on it in all the chat rooms. We're on several Facebook feeds. We're on the X. We're on the Twitter. We're on the Rumble. We're on the YouTube. Thousands of earballs will hear this show by the end of the day and find out what we're talking about. But the question of the day is this: is based on the story that Absolute Vodka, the vodka company, is going to be releasing, or has released now, a vodka that's co-branded with Tabasco, the pepper sauce company from McElhaney, Louisiana, I believe is where it's at. And it's supposed to be medium heat, but the advertising has people sitting next to an active volcano. And I said, when I read this, I said, man, that is absolute heartburn waiting to happen. And it led producer Chad and I, because this stuff is made with the Tabasco pepper mash. They didn't just dump Tabasco in it. They got the actual pepper mash and infused the actual pepper mash from Louisiana into the vodka. And so I have to ask you this question. If I think this is going to give me heartburn, what is it your absolute kryptonite when it comes to heartburn? What is your guaranteed ticket down the heartburn heaven road? Love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you on that. What is it? A lot of you talking about the spicy food, the peppers. Somebody just said cinnamon earlier. Let us know what your absolute ticket to heartburn is. And would you try the absolute Tabasco infused? It's not really infused. It's like made with it. It's bizarre. It doesn't even sound good, because if I'm going to make a Bloody Mary, I just like to have a Bloody Mary, and I'll sprinkle the Tabasco in myself. All right, ladies and gentlemen, glad to have you here. Hump Day, Wednesday, the 28th day of January, excuse me. I want to welcome in the guest. You've seen him on Newsmax very, very often. Maybe you watch his show every afternoon. His name is Chris Salcedo, and he joins me on the stage now. Chris Salcedo is waiting in the green room, and we patiently bring him into the program. Chris, welcome back to the show, sir. How are you?
Was it Jaime? Is that
Jaime? Jaime Lagos.
What's going on, Jimmy?
Not too much, my friend. Welcome back to the program. I don't know if you heard this story. Jaime Lagos likes spicy food. I don't have a guaranteed ticket to heartburn. Like, it's just the time of day. I can eat anything I want, but I just need to give time and space and distance before I go to bed. That's my ticket. Is there any food that is the kryptonite to Chris Salcedo?
Yeah, you know what? And it didn't used to be this way, because when I went on my honeymoon that was destroyed by a hurricane, we ended up driving up the coast of California. The first time I ever tried Harvey's Bristol Cream, which was sherry, sipping sherry, I loved it. I thought it was great. So for years I could have sherry, no problem. 2 Christmases ago, I sipped on some sherry, and I'm like, gurgle. What the hell?
No.
What is that? And I'm like, oh my God, it was coming back right up here. My first case of heartburn in my life, courtesy of, and again, this is not a knock on Harvey's Bristol Cream. It is the pinnacle of sherry out there. It just all of a sudden, in my older age, doesn't agree with me, sadly. So,
yeah. I don't know what happens to our bodies, but it's not good.
Nothing good.
Again, time of day. I love the spicy food. Jaime Lagos here. I love to go have a little Mexican dish here, but I've got to. I need to have the Mexican.
But enough for your personal life, right?
Yeah. I said Mexican dish. That does get
there. You go.
There. You've written a book called "The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino: A New American Revolution." Glad to have you here back on the program. Let's talk about this. Washington, D.C., there's new polling data out. America is thinking that possibly ICE, they like ICE, but maybe they should tamp it down a little bit. You've got Republicans trying to figure out, how do we compromise with the Democrats on this Department of Homeland Security funding? And it really goes to this thing. Sometimes I don't know if the Republicans actually know they're in charge, or if they think they're not in charge. They seem to get some pass under the Speaker of the House, or the House of Representatives. But I just kind of watched the identity of the Republican Party outside of Donald Trump, and I'm thinking we don't have much of an identity outside of Donald Trump.
We've got a problem. We've got the Democrat socialists who they don't govern; they rule by dictate. They're despots at heart. And then you've got the Republicans who don't know how to govern. They've forgotten how to govern. They don't know what the majority actually means. The polling, I don't trust it. I don't believe it. The vast majority of Americans do not want illegal aliens in the United States. Period. End of sentence. There is no predicate for an illegal alien to be here. Here's the truth. The vast majority of Americans do not want illegal aliens in the United States, do not support illegal immigration. The sad truth is the vast majority of Congress does. And they've been legislating with policies that no matter whether it's the H-1B visas, whether it's the multiple visa programs, whether it's the actual open borders, where it's this attempt to decriminalize entry into the United States government has determined, for various reasons, some want to rig the vote, some want cheap labor, whatever their reasoning is. They are legislating against the will of the people of the United States of America, period, end of sentence. And they've been doing it for over half century. The polling that is coming out is optics. When you ask Americans, do you think illegal aliens should be here? Do you want illegal aliens in your country? Do you want illegal alien criminals and felons in your country? The vast majority of Americans say no. But right now, Washington is getting a lot of pressure from the people they really care about, special interests and corrupt folks saying, you got to make this happen. We need our illegals. We need foreign nationals here in America to change America, to get rid of the Constitution, to get rid of all of its restrictions. We need this to happen. And you need to make it happen, Mr. Republican, Mrs. Democrat. You need to make this happen. So that's why the fake polls are coming out. That's why the idiocy is coming out right now. I just saw UK Daily Mail. Republican Hispanics are cautioning the Trump administration and targeting Stephen Miller. You know what? Go for it. Go for it. And this is a recipe for losing the midterms. You want to see the Republican Party that seems to be determined to lose the midterms? Go ahead and turn your back on the rule of law.
Yeah, it would be, remember George H.W. Bush, read my lips, no new taxes, and then he turned his lips on that promise. If the Republicans don't stand up for the rule of law and keep kicking these illegals out, that is a guaranteed recipe for disaster, and they've got to get that. But it seems as if maybe they haven't learned that lesson. Maybe they don't remember George H.W. Bush and how he literally became a one-term president because he violated that campaign promise.
Well, Jimmy, you're assuming that there are Republicans who want to win. You're assuming that the vast majority of Republicans want to win. You look at what John Thune's doing right now. You got Senator Kennedy jumping on the floor in November saying, why haven't we started a second reconciliation bill? Why have we not done the work? It's Operation Run Out the Clock. There are certain Republicans that want to turn over this Congress back to the Democrats so they can stop Trump, stop America first, stop the importation of foreign nationals who have no reverence for the Constitution and our way of life. Stop it. Now, it'd be one thing if there was an insistence on assimilation and becoming Americans. It'd be one thing. There isn't. They are being brought in with the expressed purpose of changing who we are as a nation. I oppose it. Whether it's a Republican proposing it or a Democrat proposing it, I oppose it 100%.
If you're listening later on the show, thousands of earballs will hear this show or see this show. The voice of Chris Salcedo, he's, of course, with Newsmax, a great show that he has there every day. Also, author of a new book called The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino, A New American Revolution. Chris Salcedo is my guest. If you're listening, you don't see the name, I want to remind you who it is, Chris Salcedo. And again, pick up a copy of his book. Chris, it's fascinating. I've seen some polling data, if we can believe him, is that Hispanics still glomming on to Donald Trump. They like this immigration pushback. They're not appalled. It seems to be like it's just the blue-haired lesbian white women from the suburbs that are really pissed off about ICE. But the Latino community, they seem to be polling in good numbers, saying, yeah, this is probably a good thing.
Yeah, I've seen some recent polling too that suggest that totally debunks this UK Daily Mail piece. And isn't it funny that the white left-wingers who run the Daily UK Mail, they focus in on Hispanic lawmakers are warning about why would you think that Hispanics would have a problem with the U.S. law being enforced? Why would you assume that? Because left-wingers believe, hey, if it's illegal, it's got to be Latino, right? Who are the real racists? Who are the real racists? And this whole signal chat thing, I hope you're following it, Jimmy, because this signal chat thing is Democrats caught on this encrypted app colluding with foreign nationals and foreign enemies, colluding with allegedly journalists from various journalistic operations to subvert the government of the United States of America, to prevent the U.S. government from enforcing U.S. law. That is an insurrection. And those who participated in it are insurrectionists. You want an insurrection? You want a real one? There it sits. And all this distraction about Hispanics may flee the Republican Party, not going to happen. This assumption that we Latinos love lawlessness is bass-ackwards, and I will challenge anybody out there, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, who says that, because I have brown skin, have a Latino surname, I am predisposed to want to break the law. Screw you. I say.
Yeah. Let's name these this demonization of ICE. ICE is doing what ICE does. ICE is operating right now, probably in all 50 states. They're in Texas, a red state. The left tried to assassinate a couple of them several months ago. They're in Florida. They're in Boston, Pennsylvania. All this chaos is happening in Minnesota. And rather than Republicans, and I'll call the names, these senators, Murkowski, Bill Cassidy, Susan Collins, Tom Tillis, Pete Ricketts, Michael McCall, Dave McCormick, and others, they're joined rather than saying, hey, these people are crazy in Minnesota. ICE is doing what ICE does. ICE is doing what they did under Obama. They're doing what they've done under even Joe Biden. ICE is enforcing the laws of the land. These Republicans, rather than stand up for ICE and do some explaining, they're joining in the demonization of ICE.
Yeah, those air quotes Republicans back guano crazy. That's all you can say. And look, I just published something on Substack today talking about the treachery of the rhino. For those of you who don't know, Republican in name only, the fake Republican, individuals who, if their districts happen to be, or their state happen to be majority Democrat, they would be Democrats. They look like a Democrat, they walk like a Democrat, they talk like a Democrat. And so for all intents, the only thing that's changed is the political party affiliation on their letterhead. Their ideology is Democrat, anti-American, kookery, buffoonery. All of those air quotes Republicans, most of them leaving Congress, how convenient. They don't have to stand for re-election. Now we know who they really are. Now that they're not standing for re-election, I take their commentary with a grain of salt. I hope the American people are watching and throw their worthless, those who are still running, throw their worthless rear ends out. They're serving nobody. Boobies on a bull. That's what they're. That's the equivalent. Boobies on a bull, folks.
Yeah. I just saw a comment. The guy may really think this. It came up on our YouTube channel. It says ICE is acting illegally, Jimmy. And I'm thinking, why don't Republicans know how to counteract this? There's nothing illegal about deporting illegals. ICE is actually doing legal things because they're deporting illegals. That's what ICE has always done. They're doing the same thing they did under Obama.
Somebody sent you a message. Somebody sent you a message saying ICE is acting illegally.
Yeah, it came up on our YouTube feed. I think let's see. There we go. Right there on the YouTube feed this morning. ICE is acting illegally. And I think there's some people that actually believe that, but there's no truth to that. It's delusional. ICE is enforcing the law.
Tell me how. That would be my question. Okay, you're claiming that ICE is, it's not the illegal alien who broke the law. No. Not the illegal alien who has deportation orders that are 10, 15, 30 years old, for committing crimes like rape, committing crimes like murder, committing crimes like abuse and assault. They're not the criminals. ICE is the criminal. So go ahead, genius. Tell me how ICE is violating the law. What these left-wingers are doing is they're trying to criminalize adherence to the law. They're flipping it backwards. This is what leftists do time immemorial. They say that if you adhere to the law, that somehow you're wrong. Somehow you're the criminal. And it's the criminals who should be given deference. This is insanity, and it's not American.
Yeah. The voice of Chris Salcedo. Chris has written a book called The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino, A New American Revolution. And also you see a show every afternoon on the Newsmax. Chris, real quick, just kind of a Newsmax question. A lot of folks don't know what it takes what kind of work goes into preparing for a television show. What's your life? I mean, you're obviously got a show coming up in a few hours. What will the rest of the day look like with you? What's a day in the life of Chris Salcedo on television day?
Well, I would love to be able to, I'll answer your question, but just in the interest of disclosure, and I didn't have the opportunity because I wanted to stay to the subject matter. My last day on Newsmax was on the 16th. Oh. And Newsmax said, hey, would you like to stick around? I said, no, thank you. Going to go do something else. And so my time with Newsmax ended on that day. But I'll tell you that, and actually I'm going to credit somebody by the name of Dick Tuniga. I'm not even sure he's still around, but when I was coming up in this business and I wanted to do a whole bunch of stuff on television, I would present this list to him and he says, Chris, do you recognize how tough it is to put on a television show as opposed to it is to a radio show? Because I came from talk radio. Yep. And he says, let me just illustrate it for you. How much does it cost you to go out and buy a radio? This is 20, 30 years ago. I said, well, it's about $25-$30, right? To buy a transistor radio, AM, FM, right? He goes, now how much does it cost you to go out and buy a television? I said, oh. He goes, that's the difference between radio and television. So the amount of prep, the amount of communication, the number of bodies that it takes to put on radio as opposed to talk radio, a radio versus a television, I should say. That's the level of time commitment. So for an hour of television, you're probably doing about 4 hours of prep daily.
Yeah.
To do 1 hour on television.
Yeah. Chris Salcedo, you've written a book, and I want people to go pick up a copy of it. The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino, A New American Revolution. First of all, talk about the book, and then talk about these liberty-loving Latinos. And when you've got people like Murkowski, Bill Cassidy, Susan Collins, Tom Tillis, these jackwagon senators we talk about, these liberty-loving Latinos and other people that think that way are like, where do I land? If these people are driving this car that I'm in, they're driving the bus that I'm on. This is not a bus I want to be on long term. Where do these liberty-loving Latinos and other people land if the Republican Party is not going to represent us like that?
Oh, that's easy. They land with the America First coalition. There's a new political divide, Jimmy, in this country. America First versus America Last. That's the new political divide. And both political parties are on both sides of that new political divide. So what the rise of the liberty-loving Latino details was the 2024 election and what historic monumental event happened. It's the greatest political revolution to hit this country since the formation of the Republican Party, and it's this. Millions of liberty-loving Latinos voted not for Republicans, not for Murkowski, not for Paul Ryan, certainly not Mitch McConnell or John Cornyn or their ilk. They voted for President Trump and the America First coalition. Thank God it was Trump at the top of the ticket, setting the tone, and not the aforementioned Republicans in name only, right? Thank God it wasn't Michael McCall. Thank God it wasn't these individuals, because Latinos would have taken one look at that and said, I don't see a difference between them and leftists. Remember, it was Democrats who were saying before the election, little Susie can be little Johnny. Little Johnny can be little Susie. Men can have babies. The best qualified woman for the job in female sports was a man. That's what Democrats were saying. A man can have babies. And Latinos are going, what? No. So they said, okay, so the Democrats are back guano crazy. Let's go see what the other side is talking about. And thank God the standard bearer was President Trump. Yeah. Because if it were Paul Ryan and it were Mitch McConnell, Latinos would have kept on walking. And what happened, folks? A majority of male Latinos in this country for the first time in history voted for Trump, voted for the Republican ticket, the America First coalition. Yeah. 48% of Latinos writ large did so. Historic numbers. Why? Because there was that contrast between anti-American leftists and those who wanted to chart a different course.
The name of the book by Chris Salcedo is The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino, A New American Revolution. Chris, I know you said your last day on Newsmax happened a week or so ago. Folks want to get a copy of the book. Obviously, they can follow. I'm sure you also have some other projects going on. How do the listeners here follow Chris Salcedo?
ChrisSalcedo.com. Everything you need to find me is there. ChrisSalcedo.com. And if you want to pick up the book, just head on over to Amazon. Type in The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino, A New American Revolution. Remember, Jimmy, every single time a book is purchased in audio form or in hardcover form, an angel gets his or her wings. So, do it for the country. Do it for Almighty God. I mean, seriously, pick up one of these books. Make my publisher and me very, very happy. God's blessings to everybody.
Yeah, do it for Jaime Lagos. Do it in my honor.
Yeah, and hot vodka. Woohoo!
Hot vodka, Tabasco. Yeah, but only before 5 o'clock. I'm not going to have that later because it's going to sneak up on me. Chris Salcedo, pleasure. Appreciate you hopping in here again. We'll do it again soon. Chris Salcedo, ChrisSalcedo.com. You saw there on the screen. The name of the book again, The Rise of the Liberty-Loving Latino, New American Revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, glad to have you here on the program in the Mountain Time Zone. We've struck the 9 o'clock hour. East Coasters, you've hit 11 o'clock. And if you don't know what time it is in your time zone, figure it out. Let's welcome to the program our aviation and travel expert. Every Thursday, it joys my heart and thrills my something. It tingles up my legs right now. Just Jay Ratliff's here. Jay Ratliff, nice to have you.
Hey, a pleasant good morning to you, my friend. It's always good to be with you.
Always a pleasure. Let's just dive right in. Southwest Airlines in the news this week. They started the assigned seats. I talked to our good friend Kevin, who watches the show or listens to the show as a bigwig of Southwest walking the Denver International Airport. He often chimes in the chat room. I asked him, how's the transition to assigned seating going? He says, that's going good. He says the fat people are not happy, though, because the person of size policy has changed,
right,
and they're having to buy an extra seat. And he said he had to have several conversations this week with people that said, I'm not that fat. And he's having to explain to them, yes, you are. And it's not just fat. He says you can be a muscle weightlifter. If you're wide, their policy has now changed. Let's talk about Southwest. How's it going for them this week?
Yeah, I used to travel the Detroit Lions, and we would assign 2 seats for every football player because they would need that on a 757. And the seats are getting smaller. And I've had to have that conversation in the decades I was at the airport when somebody was traveling and they were of size and needed 2 seats. And you had to kind of pull them off to the side and as graciously and carefully as you could say, look, these seats are getting smaller. And you're a big boned individual, which is the only way I could think to phrase it. And I said, I'm sorry, but for you to be comfortable, this is what we have to do. And that's when, Southwest Airlines announced that they've got this policy that says, if you're flying, you have to buy that seat next to you. And if the flight ends up being full, you cannot request a refund. If there are seats available in the cabin, you can, after the fact, request the refund within 90 days and you would get that. But, it's a lot like these mail-in rebates that drive me absolutely out of my mind. Buy this. And, if you think of it, send in the receipt and you'll get your 50 or $100, knowing a lot of people aren't going to do it. I'm waiting for mail-in rebates on Campbell's soup cans as a way for them to try to get more money out of us. But, Southwest is making the pivot from what they used to be as far as open seating, and 55 years after that, now going towards assigned seating. And there's a lot of articles, a lot of media coverage about passengers who are up in arms. I heard from Southwest pilots today saying, my gosh, Jay, the chaos at the gate. And I've told these individuals, look, anytime you have something new, and I was around with Republic Airlines when we were bought by Northwest, you've got that transition, and there's going to be issues. You're going to work through them. The bottom line is Southwest Airlines has taken the Black Friday mentality of the contact sport of boarding open seating, and they've gone to a more refined, controlled, let's get rid of 50 wheelchairs boarding on every flight, to the point now where you board and you have an assigned seat. You also, when you make that reservation, Jimmy, you know that you've got those 3 options. You can get the standard seat, which is the back of the aircraft, preferred. I love how they call that, seats towards the front. And then you can get the seats with the extra leg room, which thank you for Southwest for giving us those options. It's going to make Southwest more money. And that's what they've needed to do for a number of years. Passengers will eventually fall in line. And yes, I understand if you've got a large family, by the time you pay for all these different types of seats, it might be a little bit more money. And that's why some people are looking to fly other airlines. And certainly that's their choice. But the bottom line is, look, if you've got the Southwest Airlines credit card, which I'm a big fan of, if you charge, just pay it off so you don't have to deal with interest. That's going to save you on bag fees and other types of things. And look, I'm excited for Southwest. They and American right now are the 2 airlines that are making strives towards being more profitable, and American big time as far as being more customer friendly. So I like this for the airlines, and I suspect the passengers will eventually fall in line and recognize this is the way things are going to be going, and just try not to complain too much about it.
Yeah, I fortunately have my friend mentioned if I do fly Southwest on occasion, it's not close to where I fly to Dallas. It's the other end of town. So
right.
and love. So I don't do it often to Dallas, but I do fly Southwest on occasion. And fortunately, because I hate the open seating policy, but my friend oftentimes makes sure I get on early so I get the seat that I want.
You got to have a friend like that. That's the reason that I've avoided over the decades flying Southwest. I cannot stand the open seating process, especially when you get on board and some woman's blocking an entire row because her family's yet to get there, or some other crazy kind of thing. And if you're running late, good Lord, you're stuck in a middle seat. So no, I've gone out of my way not to fly one of my favorite airlines because of that. And I can't wait now to fly with the extra legroom, because Southwest is a great airline, great story. And again, they're making all the right decisions.
The voice of Jay Ratliff, you're listening later in the day. Thousands of earballs hear this show or see this show throughout the course of the day. Jay Ratliff, RATLIFF, jratliff.com. Jay, over the weekend, big weather event happened across really a wide swath of America. Thousands and tens of thousands of flights were canceled. Passengers were left stranded. Are we back on schedule? I know American Airlines is still trying to get back to full operations here. Are we caught up yet?
We're very close. Very, very. I haven't checked the numbers today, but the cancellations are single digits, small numbers, and airlines have been able to recover quite well. Now, I tell you, I've been doing this for 35 years, and I cannot remember a single day where we had that much of the country that was impacted by weather. You know, we've got a nor'easter that hits the Northeast, got it. Hurricane rolls through southern Florida, got it. Those airports impacted. Sometimes it's a Gulf Coast that has a tropical storm where they're impacted. Jimmy, Sunday, I think it was 78% of American airline flights canceled in Dallas on Sunday. Go over to Charlotte. Charlotte had, I think, 88% of their flights canceled. Go up to Philadelphia, 94% of their flights canceled. 55% in Atlanta. It impacted more than 1.5 million people in a single day. And I mean, it just brought everything almost to a standstill. I think on Sunday, we might have 1.3 million people fly, which is like half of what we normally do. I think Tampa, 30-some% of their flights canceled because these aircraft were being routed through these impacted areas. This was historic. And the airlines, though, saw it coming. And even though they suck when it comes to customer service, irregular operations, they do a good job. Obviously, Dallas was going to get 20 hours of freezing rain. Americans said, we're not going to have some of our airplanes there. That's dangerous conditions. So they staggered, canceled, notified people well in advance, letting them know that we've canceled all X amount of flights. We'll reroute you on later flights, and really tried to soften the blow. Airlines also issued those winter waiver policies, which means if you can call the airline, I don't want to fly, you could fly at a later time, and they didn't ding you with the change fee. So all in all, the airlines did a good job. And within a couple of days, we were limping towards normal operations. I think today's probably as close to full operation as what we've had across the board that we've seen in the last week or so. And it's only going to get better. Now, obviously, if we have another storm system move through the Northeast, all bets are off. But again, that's a regional issue. Even though that's one of the more compacted areas in the country. But airlines are pretty good about bouncing back. Those silver revenue tubes, they only make money if they're in the air. So they are really, really good at getting those suckers back up and going. Remember, Delta and United recently reported quarterly profits in excess of $1 billion, which still blows my mind, because airlines used to not make money ever, and now they're making $1 billion in a single quarter. Wow.
Yeah. Did I see a note that you sent me that American Airlines was even offering to pay double time to their flight attendants to make sure they got everybody back in the air?
Yeah, most flight attendants' flight hours will fly between 70 and 90 hours a month. The FAA restricts them to no more than 100. So Americans saying, look, some of you flight attendants have kind of been displaced. We've got some extra flights. We don't have the flight attendants we need. And they're offering double time to them, which is great. American just got done reporting their quarterly profit. It was around $250 million, which was decent. But the shutdown cost them probably $200 million. And I know that this recent weather thing with how they were impacted, remember the Charlotte and Dallas numbers I talked about where flights are being canceled, that's probably going to ding them for $200 million right there as far as lost revenue. But the bottom line is that Americans trying to get things back on track quickly. So if they can offer their flight attendants double time, I'm sure a lot of the flight attendants are welcoming the extra money. I'm sure some of them are thinking, no, thank you. I'm just going to stay home and chill after what we've been through. And you can certainly understand that.
There used to be a story also that America, and speaking of American Airlines, narrowly avoided a $2.9 million fine from the FAA. What was this about?
You can relate to this because you travel a lot. The American Airlines had a flight from Dallas to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and it's approaching the gate, and it's midnight. The flight's running late, and they don't have the agents out there on the ramp they need. So the captain pulls short, tells everybody on board we don't have people waiting. And you've seen that on your flights where you've got to kind of wait. Well, the problem is it took a long time to get people there. Somebody came out and tried to operate the jet bridge, and they said it was faulty. I'm thinking we may have had, this is Jay's guess, an employee that didn't know how to do the jet bridge, and they were just trying to wing it, and it wasn't working. The bottom line is the airplane was on the ground outside of the gate waiting hour 1, hour 2, 2.5 hours. Now, keep in mind, at the 3-hour mark, if you've not allowed your passengers the opportunity, once it's on the ground, to get off the plane, the FAA says we are going to fine you $27,000 per passenger. They had 107 passengers. Do the math. $2.9 million if you don't have everybody off by that 3-hour mark. So at 2.5 hours, they're like, we got to do something. So they brought up stairs in the winter to the back of the plane and let everybody off the plane outside along the ramp into the airport. Not what you want to do. But, it's one thing if you pull up to the gate and they say, folks, I'm sorry, we're going to be here for 2.5 hours. I mean, people go crazy, but okay. It's those creeping delays of, well, it's an hour. It's 90 minutes. I mean, that just drive people crazy. And American Airlines is, of course, apologizing for this. It was obvious a communication issue. But look, if you and I are the pilots, we're thinking we didn't sneak in. You've known we've been coming since we left Dallas. You had hours to prepare and you still dropped the ball. That's what just drives you crazy from a management standpoint is how do you not prepare for an airplane that is coming?
Sure. All right, real quick, I know you got to run here, but the airlines have now sounded off, and they've named an airport that they're most concerned with because of safety issues. What are airlines saying? The airports that they're concerned about?
I wish we had more time because I'd love to play with this one to ask you what you think is the number one. We don't want to fly in their airport, but it's Burbank, California.
Really?
They said the Burbank airport has had at least one serious near miss. I mean, serious near miss, one a year for the last 5 years. And airlines have been complaining to the FAA saying, look, this shouldn't be happening. And we need it to be addressed. And of course, the National Transportation Safety Board, the chairman, which I am a huge fan of this woman. She does such a great job. She's the one that came out and said, look, our investigation showed at DC, that DC crash, 15,000 incidents over the last several years of airplanes that were in the same proximity where we had to deviate one or both. They've also pointed out that, hey, this is an airport that has an increased number of these near misses, and we've got to do something. It's another one of those red flags. Now, whether or not the FAA is going to say, look, Austin, we've had some issues, and Burbank, we've had, and some of these others, we've had an increasing number of these occasions where aircraft are in the same proximity at the wrong time. And we've had to make adjustments as far as one airplane going around or both of them taking what we would consider to be evasive action. I'm hoping that they address this and get it fixed. Far too often, my friend, it requires an accident before something gets done. And I just pray that's not the case when it comes to their least favorite airport to fly in and out of. From Burbank, California.
I like Burbank, and I like John Wayne as well. I don't like LAX.
Those are great airports when you don't want to go into LAX. I love Orange County. That's my favorite airport flying in and out of. Plus, my wife likes it because it's close to Disney, and that's another story.
Another story. All right, real quick, what's it like flying about the country? I think we covered this, but go ahead.
It's a good day. I mean, we've had de-icing delays, obviously. That's a good delay. Please don't complain over the de-icing delay. Keeps the airplanes in the sky. But all in all, from a weather standpoint, I want to say the best day of the week we've had to travel so far. Obviously, there may be issues coming, but if you flew today, double gold star.
Jay Ratliff, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. God bless you. We'll talk again soon. JayRatliff.com, aviation and travel expert guru, Jay Ratliff. If you go to his website, you're going to see stuff about day trading. Don't let that freak you out, my friends. It's going to be okay. Jay Ratliff is a prolific day trader, teaches that, and you can contact him on his website if you have an aviation question, airline question. He'd be glad to reach out to you. He's very accessible. He ain't hard to find. JayRatliff.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you about Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com. Fantastic, one of our great sponsors of the show. We've talked about so many people that make this show possible throughout the last year when we've been going, and Sherry has been there almost since day one. First one that raised her hand and said, I want to sponsor this thing. Listen, real estate is that thing that that's kind of the American dream. Some people think the American dream is slipping away and they're not going to be able to ever buy a house. Home ownership seems to be distant, at least in a lot of states. Listen, if you're in Colorado, don't hesitate to call Sherry. Maybe your kids think that home ownership's not possible. There's programs, there's ways, there's things that you can do that even in a very expensive state like Colorado, you can absolutely, positively achieve the dream of home ownership. Talk to Sherry. She'll get you connected. She'll get you educated and do that. But she also approaches all real estate as something, as a way to create generational wealth. It's not just about upsizing, downsizing, adding an extra garage, or going to a ranch style house and getting rid of the basement and the stairs. That's all part of it. But if you do it right and you know the market, you know the seasons, you know exactly what you're doing, you have the expert of Sherry with you, then it can be the thing that can create generational wealth. And that's how she approaches it. She wants to know that the home that you're living in is not just a beautiful place for you now, but later on, it could be a beautiful place for your family as it creates generational wealth. You say, how does that work, Jimmy? Well, first of all, there's times and seasons you want to sell your home, buy a home, and you want to hit those. If you're thinking you're selling, maybe I will sell them at May or June, the kids are out of school. You may want to go about a month or so earlier. Talk to Sherry. She'll give you the strategy of that. She has seen it that two homes in the same neighborhood listed 2 to 3 months apart. One made 50, 60, 70,000 more than the other one because just the window. You've got to know the windows and the seasons of selling. You need to know the market. You need to know all the trends that are out there. And by the way, maybe you're somebody over the holidays, you're dealing with an elderly parent. We talked about dementia earlier, and you know that you've got, maybe you're watching from out of state, but you have family in Colorado. Sherry's had people say, listen, we're moving mom or dad into an assisted living center, but we got this house and we need to sell it and we're far away. Help us. She helps that family walk through that process. Listen, she's going to help you. Homeswithsherry.com, whatever obstacle you're facing in the real estate market, whatever quagmire you have, maybe you don't know the contractors that can help you get a home ready. Maybe you're not sure where to start getting the home ready. Have a conversation, strategery session with Sherry Cree. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. I'll say it again. Homeswithsherry.com. Reach out to her. And again, buying, selling, you're in that I-25 corridor. You need to reach out. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. Ladies and gentlemen, time for the stolen memes section of the show. And I appreciate all of you for participating with us in the show today. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our cheap prop on a cheap show because it's all we had. Just a cheap prop. Ready? We're cheap. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Ilhan Omar blames Trump's rhetoric for skyrocketing violent attacks. Here's your comparison. It's Donald Trump's fault. She was sprayed with apple cider vinegar. Donald Trump was shot in the head. Ilhan Omar is blaming Trump for the rhetoric. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. The left picks some interesting individuals to make heroes. Isn't this true? Watch this. Just process it. Up the top left, you may remember him, a professional agitator, inciter of violence. Yep. Oh, indoctrinating radical leftists who lost custody of her kids and had a hit an ICE agent with her car, gave him internal injuries. Oh, there's the Maryland dad, illegal MS-13 gang member, human trafficker, wife beater, charged, had gang tattoos on his fist. Oh, he's just a Maryland dad. And there's the violent criminal drug addict right there. So, yeah, the left does. You leftists out there, you have to admit, you do pick some very interesting individuals to make your heroes. It's very strange, honestly. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. You ever hit one so far left it grew blue hair and started protesting? Yeah, and that's when I can't find it. I lost it. It's gone. It's over there. No, I don't see it. Yeah, it's so far left. I'll explain it later, Delilah. It'll be all right. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. I didn't realize that my parents teaching me to tell the truth as a child would cause me to become a right-wing extremist as an adult. Huh? You're extremist. Yeah. It happens. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. There's Barry. Oh, some of you are feeling faint in the head. Your Lord and Savior has appeared on the screen. Here's the true statement. I'm sorry to tell you the truth. Barack Obama says, I used ICE to deport 3 million Americans. At the same time, I bombed 7 countries without congressional approval. Where was your outrage then? Yeah. Some of you blue-haired basement warriors out there living, where was your outrage then? Barry Obama targeted the Mexican illegals that worked at Chipotle, all the Chipotle restaurants in Minnesota. We talked about that yesterday. Where was your outrage then? Oh, selective outrage? Yeah, if you didn't have double standards, some of you wouldn't have any standards at all. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Me watching COVIDians who supported mask and jab mandates now posting resisting tyranny. Yeah, I was resisting tyranny when I said, screw you, I'm not wearing that damn mask anywhere. Thank you. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. I walked into a liquor store and a guy asked me, do you need help? I said, yes, but I'm just going to buy some whiskey instead. Yeah. Round and round the globe we go, where you steal the memes from no one knows. There it is. The signal from China, stop stealing intellectual property. And when China is offended by your intellectual property theft, you know we have done bad things. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we must wrap up the show at this time. Don't forget our charity work, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. We're a little short on our food budget. It's an ongoing problem. I sent an email out this week that it's not something we solve in 1 month. It's just an ongoing issue. We're trying to feed our kids and get them all fed. So if you can help us out, I sent out an email the other day talking about all the things you can do to help a child have a good meal today, and simple donation is a great place to start. You click the greatest need, and more than likely that's going straight to the food bill of what we feed our kids at our Legacy Christian Academy in Rwanda. And we don't just feed the kids at our school. We have kids that go to other schools because we don't have all the grades yet in our schools. So riverspromise.org, you want to sponsor an individual child, you can do that at our website, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. We'd love to have your partnership and your participation with us. Feel free to jump. Learn more about the organization as you do the show, riverspromise.org. Thousands of earballs going to be listening to the show throughout the day. To all of you, whether you're listening tonight on the podcast version or you're rewatching the television view or the screen view, thank you. I mean this. I'll see you tomorrow morning. God bless you. God bless America. Tomorrow's Friday. Woohoo! Let the weekend start now. Except we still got to get through tomorrow, but we'll have that mindset. God bless you. God bless America. Jimmy Lakey, peace. I'm out of here.